Hi, and welcome to Hypothetically Intentional, where we ask the question, what if we set intentions with everything we do? I'm your host, Michelle Albers, and today I have Alina Doran with me. Welcome back, Alina.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I love our
I'm
time
excited.
together. So
Me
I'm
too.
I am grateful to be back. I love it.
I'm excited that you're here. Do you have an intention you want to set for today, or do you want me to do it?
Oh, maybe we can co-create an intention.
Mm. Well, that's an easy intention for me. I today my intention is to be a co-creator.
Jinx.
You just gave it to us.
Done. We co-create.
Mhm. We co-create today.
Amen.
So, in the name of co-creating, where my brain went when I knew we were going to speak today, I went right into because I feel like you and I both have this same thing that happens sometimes, the idea factory, right? Like all these lanes, all these threads, all these like pathways, so to speak, that we could go down, but you can't do all of them. You're spread too thin if you do all of them. So, how do you reel it in and how do you decide like where where do you actually want to go and where might you want to land? And I say that with a little bit of hesitation because I don't mean it in a way where there's a lot of attachment to the outcome or even how it might look. But I also think there has to be mindfulness and focus. So maybe that's the question. Where do we focus? And tell us about some of your ideas because you had a lot of doozies without like giving away, things that
Yeah.
are meant to be sacred and not quite ready to be, you know,
Yeah.
talked about yet.
They're not quite ready, but they are in the making.
Hmm.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? It's like two people who help others reel themselves in are talking about their own reeling in. Isn't that
Hmm.
like it's so human? It's the constant continuum of people need people and
Mm.
I need a coach. And so I need help. I need support and community. And I'm no different from,
Yeah.
right, in many ways, the people that I serve because I get caught up with so like you said, idea factory, like the shiny object syndrome. So many great thoughts. And then, oh, so I guess you asked me a couple questions. One was like, what are the kinds of things I'm thinking about? So maybe we reel in which question. No.
I know. I was like, speaking of reeling it in, I do that a lot too. It's like, I have so many questions. And then I just like rattle three off and I'm like, wait, hang on. Let's do this one at a time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you for the one at a time.
I'm thinking with the one that I'm all in for like, oh, let's get it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so and yes, so it sounds like our minds went to the same place. Of what what's the topic that we really want to like get into. Um, so I have by kind of focusing in, I have so there's three programs that I am working on. Um, one is a program that's been established and it's continuing. So it's continuing the deepening of a program of a framework, and that's there. And that's my How Not to Be an Asshole program. So it's been a keynote talk for a while. It's been a workshop, deepening the workshop, deepening the experience and the learning, and how and applying it to different sets of use cases, different scenarios to larger groups. So modulating that, it's a great thing. I love it. I feel amazing about it. So in terms of prioritizing something, like is this important enough to focus on? That is an example where I know I am lit up and I am aligned. I'm aligned all the way through that lightning rod of alignment. I'm all in. I'm all in. I know it's so helpful. I wish I had access to it. I wish somebody invented it a long time ago. It would have saved me so much heartache. So that I'm for sure working on. Took a while to step into that realization. I think,
Hmm.
as you know, I've kind of like looking at it, playing with it, thinking about it. But I'm all in. So that's continuing. That's in progress. There's also a program that I am working on for a lot of organizations are going through major disorientation, really scary, what can feel very constrictive and frightening to the folks in it. Things like reorganizations, mass layoffs, reductions in force, mergers, acquisitions. spin-offs of companies. So lots of teams changing, bosses changes, priorities changing. And that's a place that's really difficult to be in. I've been in those situations myself. I've worked with folks. So I really feel like I'm feeling the calling now is a time to drill in and really create a program that's going to be generative and immediately usable for folks in it. So that's the second thing. And where my mind goes is you have leaders who are asked to do at least as much, usually more, but now everything's been shaken up and disoriented, and everyone is in fear mode and everyone is in survival mode. So they're asking, how am I going to be okay? So they're less focused on getting, they're less invested often, less creative, because creativity is hard to get to in a scared shitless mode. And
It's
so
also the way out. So it's
what's
like
that?
quite the conundrum. I said it's also the way out. It's quite the conundrum. Creativity can be the way out of scared shitless mode, but to get into creativity when you're in scared shitless mode is really challenging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like a catch 22.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's very much a catch 22. Yes. Um, that's the second program. So it's that post, you're on the other side of the big, big change. Now what? How do I get myself together? How do I motivate my people? How do I manage all this work? How do I do more with less? How do I deal with overwhelm? And then the third program, very different, very, very different, is I am partnering with a stylist to executive women. Now, women represent about half of the folks that I work with. It's an important one. There's a lot going on in the world today where it'll be a useful thing, but we're getting together to offer a different aspect. So I work with folks on visibility and influence, um, partnering with someone who works on how someone is styled and how it represents, how their outward expression represents them and who they are and how they want to show up. Um, really to get to their personal style and how they can be themselves via expression of their accessories and clothing. Um, jives beautifully with energetically, which is where will step in. What are you doing to be in the conversation? What are you doing to get your own sort of internal hygiene to then transmit energy, to then influence, to then walk in a room and in 10 seconds, everyone feels what it is that you want them to feel. And when you walk out of that room, they are thinking and feeling what you want them to think and feel. So it's cool. It goes. I'm excited about all three. Um, I'm excited about all three, and they're definitely a go in design and time investment. The question becomes like, well, okay, today's a new day. Which one goes first?
Yeah. Well, and that third one is new. That just so that came to because last time we spoke off mic, we weren't talking on a podcast, but you
Yeah,
were talking about having a meeting, and so that is moving forward. That's exciting. Congratulations.
thank you. That is moving forward.
Nice.
It is useful.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't work on something that I don't feel connected to. That's why I did this whole thing,
Oh
right? If
yeah.
it's not like if
Yeah.
I feel how it's going to help, I see it. It's really, really
Yeah, there's like
true.
this. I'm thinking about like the idea factory, right? Like there's the ideas that come from within and exude out, and then there's like the almost like the reaching and trying to pull it to you, and it's like those are the ones that like don't work for me. If I have to
Hmm.
like reach out and pull it to me and it feels forced in some way, that's a different thing than like just like sort of exuding exuding yourself, your ideas, your magic, your essence, and
Hmm.
then seeing where that takes you. That took me a
Yeah,
long time to fall into. It was like I feel like I fought that for a long time. Like I'm supposed to be this here, and I'm supposed to be that there,
that's it.
and I'm supposed to be this here. And it's like now I do really outsider looking in, it appears that I do vastly different things. And literally everything I do has similar elements within it. It's just a matter of like which tool am I using And the reality is now I just sort of braid, well, I don't sort of, I braid them all together. And it's like, you're going to get me. You're going to get me and my life experience and my skills. And we're going to go where that best serves you. And that is why I just changed how I offer all my services because it was two boxed in very separate things. And it was
Hmm.
harder for me to show up in a way because it's like, well, they booked this, so I can't do that. And it's like, how about I just tell you this is what I have, the skill set I have, and then like I think the only thing that's really super specific that I do now is tarot readings. And even those can become, I mean, it's coaching and it's less about the tarot than it is about the conversation. And
Yes.
because I don't, I mean, am I a psychic medium? Sure, maybe, but those words imply things that don't resonate with me. I'm not about future telling. I'm about what do we need in the now? What's the energy in the now? Anyway, I didn't mean to like transfer this into like a whole thing about me, but like what you were talking about, it's like so valid of three very different things. And yet, guess what? They're all you. And they're all coming from
Yeah.
within you, which means there's a common thread within them in how you show up and the end result. It might be even feel different as an offering, really different as an offering. And ultimately, you're taking them to a place that you have the skill set for.
Mm.
And that's the magic. That's the beauty. It's such a powerful thing. But I didn't used to view it that way. And it was such a helpful thing once I sort of shifted into that space of I don't have to tuck into individual lanes. Like they don't have to be separate. Like it can be all like threads of fabric that is different colors, different textures, different styles. And yet, look at that. They make a beautiful blanket. Do you know what I mean? Like just,
That's absolutely, that's the ideal. It's there isn't, there's a box and a way that things are supposed to be, conventional wisdom or conventional standards, and that's not, who's to say that that's right or feels aligned or needs to be?
yeah.
Who's to say, right? And so the common thread is like you're describing your business. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you have conviction and you're using your gifts and you're serving and it feels right to you and feels great to you, that's very much an aligned decision. And it doesn't, if it makes sense to you,
Yeah.
then that's good to go. Um,
Well, and even
so
just in
very
what, oh,
much,
sorry.
oh, wait, I don't know that I don't see these different offers are to me like really one thing,
Right.
right? It's all one, like very much like you were saying. And that's not all there's a lot more that I do. These are the three kind of focuses. Part of these came through, well, the first program, the How Not to Be an Asshole, was something that I did on my own as part of being asked to do a keynote talk. And I walked with it and walked with it. That's really funny because I walked with it for a couple months because I wanted to be prepared. And then
Mhm.
within 2 weeks of the talk, finally started coming in, like downloading. And it was this like a sense of urgency. Like I need humans to know this before I die. I want my children to know this and internalize it before I die. Like I need people to internalize these lessons because it will reduce suffering and pain. So it was like a calling, it came in, it was right, it was there. The other two are part of an intention that I set for the year last year, the idea of partnering with folks.
Hmm.
How I was going to do it was not rigid, and I'm grateful that I wasn't rigid about it, right? Like I always, this is me practicing my own advice, which is always lovely, not to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
of like make a plan, but leave room for serendipity.
Yeah.
Have a plan, have an intention, how it's going to come through. Let's see. Am
Hmm.
I doing the things that feel right? Am I aligned within myself? Then I have faith that it will come together. I will meet people who are supposed to be there. We're going to create together and we'll see what happens. Um, so so that's cool. That's a cool feeling. But it's very much that have a plan, leave room for serendipity, have an idea, a thought,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's funny, I used to do financial planning analysis. You do like detailed planning years ahead. And when I would work on it, I would always think to myself, like, which we need to do, it's important, right? You have like targets that you're expecting. Right, there are a lot of decisions, a lot of people, there's a lot depending on being able to make it, having expectations and setting those targets. knowing all the while that who knows what's going to happen, right? Like a hurricane might sweep through, or like another some act of God or some, macroeconomic forces that we can't control. And now all our little plans are just these little plans that are past tense. They're cute. Like that's real cute. You were adorable thinking you can control all that. But it's important to, I think part of that planning energetically is intention setting.
Yeah, and knowing how to shift, or maybe it's not knowing how, maybe it's just sort of the ability to shift, ebb, flow as and like as it evolves. Because like there's nothing is constant. Everything is changing on the regular. So to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, I think it's so important to have the intentions and even allow yourself to dream, plan, goals, like structure, all of that. And I think there's a line where, like, if you get too attached, if you get too specific that involves an attachment, that's where it's like you lose the ability to
Mm.
see where it lands. It's like I talked to you a week ago and you were still very much in scattered idea brain. And now you're like locked in, grounded, focused. I'd say even hyper focused, but in a good way, not in an attached way. Just in like I got this. I know where I'm going now. I have at least a map. And that map might, have an eraser with it because we're going to create new lands over here or erase this one over here. Maybe you don't erase it, you just move away from it. But it's just like I feel like you were like, I'm not sure which map I'm supposed to use last week. And this week you're like, I got it. Like, this is it, you
Well,
know?
this is it. There is these are aligned right things.
Hmm.
There are shifts. There's some shifts that took place. You're absolutely right. That happened over the last week where I feel a lot more conviction, a lot clearer
Yeah.
on those ideas were floating, but do I go for it? What does it mean to go for it without over attaching? Just like you said, it's people need it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to put it out there and let's see what happens.
Yeah. And to be clear, I wasn't implying that you weren't questioning your content or anything like that. It was more like
No,
I
no,
have so
no.
many ideas of different places I
Yes.
can throw it out into the
Yeah,
world.
that's
And
right.
then also like, what does that look like? So I just want to make
That's
sure that was really clear because sometimes when I say things, it's like, well, that could have been taken a million different ways. And what I was talking about is I know who I am and I know what I offer and I know where I take people. And also there's like a million different ideas of how I could, bring that
oh
into the
yeah.
world and throw it
There's
out. And
that's
and
right. It's
and
so
like this
many.
week you're like, ooh, like I'm excited these opportunities came to be and now I get to dance a little and play,
Mhm.
which is amazing because when
Yeah.
you have those ideas within yourself that like I don't know, I feel like they come from the soul, right? I would say like when you smile from the inside out, when your eyes light up from your light, you know, versus just like the fakey smile. It's like, yeah, it's because it's coming, it's part of who you are. And like that's dripping out into the world. And then it's like, yes, but how and where?
Very much so. Very much so. There's been a lot of sitting with all that excitement
Hmm.
and sitting with it and it on the other side is and that's where I am right now. I wouldn't say I'm all the way on the other side, but I definitely feel clearer on, yes, will I continue to generate ideas? Yes. Like, will we both continue to perpetually generate ideas?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
But with the number of hours in the day that we have and, the energy, where are we spending it? Right?
Right. Gosh, I'm having like this whole brain heart experience right now in this conversation because I'm connecting dots about like when I very first started my business journey and how I very much still tucked into boxes. I'm supposed to show up this way. I was trained this way. I was supposed to do things this way. Oh, I'm emulating this person I admire over here because I see them as a successful business person. Like it was all, I was learning how to make it mine or have it come from me. And I don't say make it mine like it has to be, not about me, but just so that I can not be a hypocrite or so that I can not be a parrot. Like I want to be authentic and real and offer experiences that are true, like true to me, because otherwise they're just me in a box. And then, you know how, like, when I first started teaching, I had an outline and most of my words written down in every single thing that I taught. And then if I was asked a question or somebody threw me off of my routine, it really threw me for a loop. And I was like, well, hang on, I don't know if I know that answer because I was so rigid in like how I structured things and the freedom that came with like the lived experience. I feel like you get 3 years in, you're just a smidgy wiser. You get 5 years in, you're pretty dang wise. You get 7 years in, you're almost there. You get 10 years in, and you're just like, I kind of don't get surprised anymore. Not that there's not more to learn. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like within my wheelhouse, I might not always have the answer, but you're probably not going to surprise me too terribly much. I've seen a lot of things. And so there's like this evolution. And the thing that was happening in my brain as you were talking about it is I'm connecting it to the control piece and also parenting. Because I feel like starting a new business and the amount of control that we hang on to at the beginning until we just sort of surrender into like the flow of it is not, it doesn't feel that different to me than like as a parent, like that grasp of control, because we so desperately want to control our kids and like give them the best life experience based on what we think through our eyes versus actually like getting to know them through theirs. And I think that's just common human behavior. I'm not saying everybody does it that way, but it's pretty common. And I definitely showed up in that way. And I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, how beautiful it is. And why is it easier in business than it is with your kids to be able to just like settle into detaching and being more from that place of like observing and I don't know, like just
Hmm.
witnessing and being willing to ask for outside help or surrender into something. Because I don't know. I don't know why those dots connected, but they really did for me. And I'll stop talking now because it's very messy.
Oh, I love it. That's life.
Yeah.
I could listen to you talk for hours, just so you know.
Yeah.
I love it. I could sit, rest my head, and like
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, I
Um,
mean, do you have that same, like when I say that, like, does it feel similar to you? Because there's just like big old dots connecting for me. I'm like, gosh.
it's interesting because with when I when I had when I became a mom, my first realization was I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the second realization was, oh shit, I am absolutely going to mess things up. It's just a question of what, not if.
Uh-huh.
Like, wow, this is, and I think the second realization that came, maybe the third realization was, oh, um, my daughter was my firstborn. Like, she's going to see me all the time, and she's going to see all my mess ups and all my mistakes, and I can't just show her the best of me. She's going to actually see me every day because that was the other realization. Like, oh, this is like her home. I brought
Right.
home another person who will be residing full time,
Hmm.
like with me, seeing me in all my glory and all my mess. And so I knew from the beginning that this is I knew intellectually that this is a person who is born for me to kind of shepherd and care for, but that this is its own this person has her own thoughts and this is her own being. It's not
Hmm.
like another, it's not like my third arm.
Right.
It's not like just an extension of me, even though I feel so connected to my kids. These are human beings. So I kind of knew, and I think with years with parenting, I did learn and relearn that more and more and more that this isn't going to be prescribed. This isn't going to be how I think. It's going to be, I mean, to an extent, I'm not going to say I'm totally detached. Like thou shalt not skip school. So there are some hard lines that I do have. But for the most part, where it comes to desires, goals, vision, I found myself much more in the role of exploring beside them, like dreaming up
Hmm.
with them and encouraging them to dream up and reflecting to them what I see and reflecting the good and helping them along the way. Does it work always? No.
Yeah.
No, just to say
Yeah.
that.
It does not. It
Is it
does
always
not.
la-di-da?
Absolutely.
No, I totally
No.
lie. But it's definitely an approach that's improved the relationship, really made us feel closer, more connected, and more honest. With my business, all that said, I actually started with a like let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. Like I knew that I can't start a new business, this kind of work with two constrictive of a view. If anything, it was almost the opposite of I have experience across multiple functions and specialties, right? I have corporate finance, I've got business operations, I've got finance operations, I've got business development. Those are the functions that I've served. And then across industries and across company sizes. And then this work, the coaching and advisory work has been going on for years, like 10 years at least along the way. But it's now surfaced and bubbled to where I needed to start this thing. So when I started this thing, it was I'm going to leave it. My design was I'm going to leave it undesigned and
Yeah.
loose and be me and see what it feels like to settle into what is me. Like I think we've talked about it before, but it's worth repeat. It keeps coming up for me. It's this identity shift. It's peeling the layers away. It's meeting myself
Mm,
again and parts of me that I kind of suspected were there. There's a lot of recalibration internally that went into starting a business. Of like,
yeah.
I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was never my plan ever. This felt inevitable. Like I had no choice. I couldn't unsee what I saw, unlearn what I learned, and I knew that if I wouldn't do this, I would surely have a deathbed regret. So it had to be.
Mm,
It had to be. Like there was no other way. The rest, it's like that emoji.
yeah. Just a big shrug. I don't know. We'll
I don't
see.
know. But
Let's find out.
right, let's find
Yeah.
out. But then here we are today, and I've got these three items that I do want to be like the bold headings for
Hmm.
the present day. Right, not all the end all be all, but it's important. It's important for me to bring this to more people and to serve in this way because it's very real and it's a very like head spinning, sometimes nauseating time for a lot of people with so much uncertainty. This vortex.
Yeah.
But then so the conviction's there, holding it lightly is kind of there. Then what do you actually work on first? The
Yeah.
exploration continues.
Yeah. I think it's all a discovering on some level. And I think the more we grip tight and like think it's supposed to look a certain kind of way, which is control, I think the more messy and harder it gets on
Oh
some
yeah.
level, you know?
Oh yeah. When we this illusion of, these little tiny humans on this planet, silly little things thinking that they control things.
Right.
It's adorable
Right. And painful.
and painful.
Yeah.
So how do you go about there's a lot of like we're talking some degree in like some theory and energetic and intuition and what we feel. In practice, you've been running your own business for a while, and you
Hmm.
do have this portfolio of ways that people get to heal from being around you, whatever way that comes, right? You have all these different ways of offering, but it's all they're getting you and they're getting your all the goodness and the wisdom and the intuition and the kindness and the skill set and all of that. When you're developing something new, how do you prioritize within a day? Like I'm going small.
Mm.
Let's say it's a
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Where do you start? It's Wednesday 9 a.m. and you don't have meetings. Let's say you have a chunk of time. You're not meeting with any clients. It's just your free like work time.
Yeah. I go in waves with how good I am at that because sometimes I really just suck at it. If I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I feel like I'm passionate enough about what I do that I always pick something. So it's not like I don't do anything. And if I don't mindfully go into a week with like, what are my priorities this week? I tend to get sidetracked and then I come back to a different thing sometimes, if that makes sense. Because it's not uncommon for me to since I've started the mastermind coaching program, it's not uncommon for me to get somebody reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I'm in a conundrum. Do you have a minute?" And I almost always say yes to that. I mean, I have to be pretty much in something that I just can't get out of for me to say
Hmm.
no to that because I think that's why they're hiring me. You know what I mean? Real time engagement when you're in a conundrum. And when I say conundrum, I just am avoiding the word crisis because that sounds really, you know, scary. But the reality is sometimes it's more of a crisis. And so it's like, well, let's lock in, let's meet, even if it's a phone call or a Zoom, sometime in person, depending on where they are located, right? And let's drop in and do the thing. And so I've gotten good at shifting in and out of things and shifting gears, but sometimes I think I'm too good at that because I'll weave in and out. And it's like I love when I set a chunk of time and I can drop in and do the thing that is priority one. I'm finding it interesting right now because I've been saying I'm going to write a book for a while, and it just keeps not being priority one for me. And I don't really know why, because I don't feel like I'm avoiding it. I think it's too many ideas, and I need to figure out how I want to structure it. So I have like four different copies of different ways I could write this book. And I'm sure there's people listening right now going, oh, she's 100% avoiding it. And it's like, maybe. I just don't, because I'm not resistant to putting it out there. I've submitted a few book proposals. So it's not like I'm like, no, I don't want to be seen. It's more like, I just don't think I'm fully, like, I feel like it's coming, like how I'm going to structure it is coming. And maybe that's a perfect way to describe some weeks are like that. How I'm going to structure that week is coming. I don't know yet. I trust my intuition and I'll drop in. And if I'm being honest, when I look at it from a logical, efficient standpoint, I'm way more efficient and I get more done when I'm dropped into my blocked time. And this is what I'm doing in this hour. And this is what I'm doing in this hour or 2 hours
Hmm.
or however long I set. So, but I think I always have things in motion, and then I have things that are like, this needs to be completed. What I've had to learn along the way, because I'm a person that likes to start and finish. I don't like things hanging. I like to have an idea and execute it all the way to the end. That makes me happy. That's my happy place. I also learned over time that that is an unrealistic expectation and a very big attachment. So I'm not attached to that anymore. So it's nice that I can show up in a way where I can navigate it in a different way. But like I just finished and I did this pretty quickly. I used to call my Choose Yourself weekend events summits. And I just decided with the help of a friend who's also in marketing that naming them and having a structure for them is more relatable. So this last one that we did, I called the art of manifestation. Um, and it was the art of manifestation, and we definitely talked about that and went there, but we also did what we always do, and that is go to deep core root healing. And so we were manifesting healing and we were manifesting connection to our authentic selves. What that meant was the slideshow that I wasn't like I was going to use a slideshow for the whole entire weekend. It was just like points to give people visual references because some people are more visual. I
Yeah.
mean, we ended up not using it really for longer than about 5 minutes because we ended up going down a road where it just wasn't needed and it was a distraction. So I had this whole PowerPoint that I had built and I was like, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm supposed to do something with this. And so I just submitted it for approval on Udemy for a class, The Art of Manifestation, you know, and we'll see. But like, so those are the sort of things where you get an idea, you run with it and drop in, execute it. I made it a priority because it was like, this feels important. I trust that I'm supposed to put this towards the top. And so I
Hmm.
did. So it sounds messy. Like what I'm saying sounds messy, and maybe to some people it is, but I tick well following my intuition. And also, I cannot do it without some sort of structure because I
Hmm.
will go all over the place.
Hmm.
But I used to also be really rigid in that, like I talked about my outline when I first started teaching. And when somebody did something outside of that, it threw me off my game. I used to show up in that way, like for this stuff too. And now I've just learned how to navigate. Like it doesn't throw me off my game. I can come back to where I was if, say, a client needs to have a impromptu one-to-one,
Hmm.
or if I get pulled away because something happens. So I think in all of this work, what I'm realizing is that I'm really good at grounding and getting myself present and just going where I'm meant to go without wasting a bunch of time or not focusing on resources that matter. The book is getting loud again for me, so I know that I'm going to circle back to that shortly. Like it's starting to brew
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm excited about that. And in the now, I just have been feeling like there's been these other things that are moving parts that are m more important.
Mhm.
Not to take away anything from the book. And I don't know. It was like I was all gung ho, and then I submitted a couple proposals, and then, I mean, I have several, I'll say, writing pieces, that ideas that I know will come into the universe at some point, but they just don't feel pressing right now. It feels like there's other things I'm supposed to be doing first. And part of me is like, I don't know what story's coming, but I think there's one coming, that's supposed to be part of this. And
Mhm.
I'm praying that it is something that isn't too terribly disruptive. You know what I mean? Like that it can
Disruptive.
be, yeah, well, because sometimes those spiritual two by fours, those lessons that like help the world. I mean, for me, I don't know. I just think some of my inner child stuff and like wounds that come forward so that I can navigate my own so I can help other people. Like I really believe that's how I work. That's how I tick best is like, oh, you're not doing this alone. I'm doing it with you. I'm actively in a wound too. I've just learned over time how to like hold space for myself in my wound so that I can actually use it as a teaching tool and moment. So I can be with you in a moment in time and we can be in our wounds together and I can still show up resourced and wise. And then I can also go off on my own and be in my wound in that messiest place where I don't have the capacity to hold space. And I've learned how to dance that dance based on what my schedule looks like, which sounds rigid, but it's really not. It's a beautiful flow. And there is something about deep healing when you're in a room with someone who's choosing to do that too, where I think it brings everyone to a deeper place. And I don't fight that anymore. I used to be like, oh my God, I think I have to cancel this thing. I don't have the capacity or the wherewithal to do this. I'm too exhausted. I've been in this emotional wound forever and I'm emotionally exhausted and whatever. And it's like, yeah, and that's okay. You get to show up messy as long as you're resourced and wise, you know? That was a really long answer to a very simple question that maybe didn't even answer your question, but that's where I'm at today. I'm messy right now. The world is messy right now.
Mm.
My clients are messy right now. I'm an empath and I've learned how to, um, I don't want to say leave it open because I'm not open all the time. And also to choose to be open with it so that I can show up in a way that is most resourced and I have the most information that I can to serve the
Mhm.
people that I serve, including myself. And so
Yeah.
it's just really messy right now. And
Yeah.
I'm good with that. It's actually my clients make fun of me. I'm like, it's good. They're like, you keep saying it's good. It doesn't feel good. I'm like, it's beautiful. Like healing is so freaking messy, but I'm telling you, it's beautiful because I see where you're going. I see where you started. I see where you're going, and I know what's just around the corner if you choose to keep going and, on the path of healing. And it's
Mhm.
hard and it's messy and it can be terrifying. And it is absolutely, without a doubt, worth it. It's amazing. It's good. I say it all the time and they make so much fun of me. And I giggle with them. I'm like, look, I know some of you know. In fact, I know all of you know if we want to get honest with each other, because you experience it every time we drop in and do the work. Even though you feel like you want to run away, even though you feel like you want to stuff it and go back to how it was, which was easy, but it's not easy.
It
It's
wasn't easy,
hard.
right? And that's,
No.
I love that. I mean, I'm listening to my mind's gone to so many, my mind's gone to so many places, sort of connecting and relating and reflecting as you're so thoughtfully, journeying in this through these thoughts. It's beautiful. It's
Well, I'm glad you
beautiful.
followed because for me it feels messy because like it was actually a
But
messy
that's life.
morning. There was stuff this morning
I
that happened and
I am suspicious when it's so clean,
yeah,
when
that's
people
fair.
look like they have it together all the time.
Yeah.
My bullshit radar is on high alert,
Yeah.
high
Yeah.
skepticism. When it's like, this is great. My life is in order. I'm really efficient. Everything's amazing. I
Yeah.
don't trust that.
Yeah.
often. Like that's where I start from. I start
Yeah.
from a place of, nah, I doubt it. So messy is expected.
Yeah.
If you're, I mean, when is it? It may appear not messy if you're following instructions that someone gave you. It may appear not messy
Yeah.
if you are
Check.
meeting others' external expectations. Exactly. Exactly. Like check, 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 check.
I did the whole
check.
list. Isn't that great?
Yeah, here's the problem though. It wasn't your list, it was somebody else's.
Mm,
So now you have to put that down and start wondering what your list is. And that hurts.
yeah.
So boo-boos are included, messes are included, 100%. Anybody who I can't work with someone when I work with, coaches, I've worked with therapists, I've worked with whoever I'm working with, I cannot and will not work with someone who puts on a facade, a veneer of having it all together. It's false. They don't. I appreciate vulnerability. I appreciate authenticity. I appreciate people being real and saying, I'm not really okay. Or like, I'm struggling with this. We don't have to
Yeah.
discuss it right now. I need to know that the person is genuine. How else
Hmm.
am I going to connect with them and work with them and trust them if they're not being with
Yeah.
their own honest with their own stuff? Um, but you're reflecting on something that's being in this mess, if you will, right? Of having running your own business and having all these different places where you can go. What it's highlighted for me as being spending having spent 25 years as an employee
Mm.
and working according to someone else's plans and someone else's priorities. And granted, I've been very, very, very fortunate in that a number of roles I've had have given me relatively pretty fantastic reign over what it is that I'm prioritizing, what I'm working on, how I'm going about it. Like those are as I got more senior in my profession, that was my preference. And I wouldn't work with people who are like
Mm.
micromanaging, controlling. I wanted to work with, give me the problem and peace out, and I will keep you updated. I will
Yeah.
always keep you updated and we'll always talk, but you're trusting me to go figure it out. I need that trust. And I need to figure that out, right? I need to get into it myself and connect to it. So, not to say that, but even that, even all that relative freedom, being a business owner for the first time, it's like this wide open field of possibilities and opportunities and ideas. And so, what now, right? It's this like you stand there, you know, arms out, you see the field, it's bright, it's shiny, you get ideas, you get inspiration, choices galore, like it's raining choices. And it's like, well, okay. There is no one. It felt like a very drastic change from 25 years. I mean, and before that, schooling, right? When we go through
Right.
school, and I went to, traditional public school, there's frameworks, there's structures, there are deadlines, there are expectations. So I didn't need to exercise those parts of me. I didn't need to explore those parts of me because I was living in frameworks erected by other parties that I was choosing to follow.
That's such a good observation of just like how much structure there is kind of for a good chunk of our life where we don't even
Huge.
consider that we could go outside of that and
Yeah.
learn and explore more
That's
more of us.
Yeah, like, oh, I didn't know I could order off menu. There's a la carte.
Yeah.
I can change the ingredients. This isn't the only thing. Oh, that's good to know. Oh, but wait a minute. Who am I? Oh, I don't know. What
Yeah.
do I actually want? What's mine and what's someone else's? Right? Like what's narrative from parents, teachers, society? Like where do I start and end? So
Yeah.
starting this business has illuminated that so much. And so it isn't to throw out, the baby with the bathwater in saying, no more structure. Like I'm going to just get up and
Right.
see how I feel. And if I feel inspired, I'm just going to go and figure it out. Like that's too loosey-goosey. A calendar is needed, a structure is needed. Then it's this balance that I've been learning. Who am I in this new super free world where I am just a master of my own domain. I'm evoking a Seinfeld episode. That's not what I'm referring to. But
Well, so for
it's
you,
yeah,
it's Wednesday at 9 a.m. What does that structure look like for you? I would love to hear it.
yeah. It varies. It isn't a rigid structure, right? So some days I know for the week and even for the day, sometimes it gets specific, like no matter what, these three things have to get done, or this one
Mm-hmm.
thing. If nothing else, I have to get this one thing. I need it. I need to do it. That's it. There's one priority, like this is the needle mover. This is important. It's gonna get done, or these three things, or these five things, and they get done. If I know
Yeah.
that they are needle movers, they need to be done, right? Like, I mean, some things are easier than others, right? Like, oh, taxes. Like, oh, anything deadline driven for my children is, of
Sure.
course. For the business, anything deadline driven that involves other people, because serving others is way easier than serving ourselves often.
Yeah.
So if it's for someone else, it's like that becomes it's very clear that that's a priority and that's no problem. It's really when others are not waiting for me. Like my clients, it isn't for my clients. It isn't for someone else. It's only for me. And that is where I start to get loosey goosey. So some Wednesday mornings, I'll get up and I'll say, I intended to write, but I am not, nothing's coming through. I feel stuck. So then I'll say, okay, I'm not doing the creative work right now because I'm clearly just feel like a little bit glued to my chair, my desk, like in place, a little constricted. So then I'll do work that is a little more structured or procedural, I should say, requires
Hmm.
less inspiration and more process, right? So then I'll turn to admin work. And then if it's admin, that's an example of like admin work. Well, of admin work, what actually matters? Okay, do those things, leave the
Yeah.
rest. Okay. Sometimes I will still feel this nagging, like, no, but you really need to be doing this other work. You don't feel like it. But some days I'll take a break, like a dance break. I'll take a walk, I'll change my environment. Like, all right, let's shake it up, let's change it up, and let's go. Because you know you want it.
Hmm.
So let's go get it.
Yeah.
I what I've learned to let go of with a lot more ease is if I said I was going to do it, doesn't mean like is it still relevant? So questioning whether something really is a priority and revisiting it, it's something that I'm pretty at ease with for the most part. It's really like ego, all of that. Like if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. I'm not going to struggle for something that doesn't have a purpose that feels aligned.
Yeah.
Right? If I care about it, I'll bleed for it happily. If it matters to me, if it's like conviction is fire,
Yeah.
then like the bruises and the cuts are totally worth it. I might not even notice them. I might not even realize that, you know how sometimes when you're a kid and you're like running around, you're playing, you come home and you realize you have like scratches on your knees, right? Like, oh yeah, I was playing hide and seek and I didn't even see that. Or oh,
Yeah.
whatever, no
Forgot it
big
happened.
deal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That I don't mind. But yeah, because some days I sit down, like a lot of days I'll sit down, I'll have my little ritual.
Oh,
I'll
I
see.
definitely have rituals. I did not bring
Yeah,
those up, but I have, well, I just, yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I start my day with gratitude and intention. So that leads me to one ritual or another. It's not the same every day, but gratitude
Mm-hmm.
and intention is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge amount of difference.
Yeah, I didn't used to do that. And I think it was the Zentangle method that brought it in for me. And I was like, this changed literally everything.
Mhm.
It's just
Yes,
mindset and just like dropping in and being grounded and really appreciating the things you have in your life instead of focusing on the things that are frustrating or heavy or,
yes.
hard. Yeah.
I think that I appreciate you, yeah, bringing that up.
You brought it up. You was when you said ritual, I was like, oh yeah, I missed that part. I did not share that. Sometimes the things that I do all the time that are just part of who I am, like that, and that are consistent, I forget to share when questions like that are asked because it's like, well, that's just, I mean, yeah, duh. You know what I mean? But it's like, but that's
Mm,
mine, not everybody else's. And sometimes it's sacred to me and I don't really want to go there. And then other times
hmm
it's like, um, I think it's important to share it. So I don't know. I feel like having this conversation on the mic is super helpful. I feel like I'm I am in a messy state today, so I appreciate you bearing with that as we recorded impromptu again, which I actually really love the impromptu podcast recordings. I just never know where we're going to go. And I think I just trust the universe in that, right? Like
Yes.
there's a nugget here for someone, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love impromptu and I love the messy.
Yeah.
So I'm loving that we got to be here together
Yeah,
today.
me too. Do you have speaking of nuggets, do you have a last little nugget you want to share with
A
the
nugget
audience?
about the mess.
Yeah.
A nugget about the mess. Make a plan, leave room for serendipity.
Beautiful. Ah, that is a mic drop. Thank you for being here with me today. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I'll
I
see you
appreciate
soon.
you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you. All right, that's a wrap for today. Bye. Be you every day.